So he's got this ability to say outrageous things, non-stop.
We've obtained secret recordings which reveal what Anthony Pratt thought about Donald Trump during his tenure in the Oval Office and what Trump thought about the world.
He's outrageous. He just says whatever the he wants, and he loves to shock people.
It's clear from the tapes Pratt believed Trump loved to brag, and it seems no subject was off limits. Pratt describes a conversation he had with the president in late 2019, shortly after the commander-in-chief had ordered a military strike against Iraq.
I hadn't even heard it. It hadn't even been on the news yet. He said, I just bombed Iraq today.
According to Pratt, even after that, Trump wouldn't be quiet. He went on to repeat details of the private phone call he just had with a furious Iraqi leader.
He said, I just bombed Iraq today. And the president of Iraq called me up and said, you just leveled my city. And he said, and I said to him, okay, what are you going to do about it?
Are you surprised that Anthony Pratt got such access to President Trump?
I think Trump was trying to impress him. Well, you may be a billionaire, but I'm a multi-billionaire, and besides, I'm president, and I know things that you don't. I do think that's very typical Trump behavior.
Donald Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, is disappointed but not surprised. His old boss might have shared non-public information about military action or the private response from Iraq's leader. But he says it was stupid and potentially dangerous.
Well, if the disclosure is after the event has taken place, nonetheless, there may still be operational reasons as pilots or personnel on the ground get out of danger. And that's why the announcement of military strikes often is delayed for some period of time so that we can be sure that those who carried it out are back safe home.
In another conversation, Pratt says Trump told him about an infamous phone call he made to the leader of Ukraine. He wanted President Zelensky to investigate the foreign business dealings of Joe Biden's son Hunter in the hope of causing harm to his political rival. Trump's boast was that he could and should have been much tougher.
Yeah, and Trump said, you know, that Ukraine phone call, that was nothing compared to what I usually do. And he said, that Ukraine phone call, that's nothing compared to what we usually talk about.
So who is this Australian businessman? He's billionaire and, oh my Lord. It looks like they made his hair out of Trump's face and Trump's hair out of his face.
When the stories alleging Trump had leaked classified information to Pratt were first broadcast a few weeks ago, both men were ridiculed.
Authorities were afraid that Pratt might have told someone else, but he didn't. He didn't tell someone else. He told some 45 else.
But John Bolton says it's the former president, often disparagingly known as the leaker-in-chief, who is solely responsible.
Trump doesn't have a filter between his brain and his mouth, and so the concern that he would reveal classified information to a foreigner, even an ally, but a private citizen, struck many people as entirely believable.
Disclosing details of conversations with foreign leaders to an Australian billionaire, could that ever be appropriate?
Well, the president can basically say whatever he wants to anybody and can declassify classified information. It's a question not so much of illegality as of prudence and competence to be president. And I think when you add all of that up over a 4-year period, it could be very substantially damaging.
For such supposedly good buddies, though, the secret recordings we've uncovered reveal frustrations in the relationship. On the tapes, Anthony Pratt admires Trump's ruthlessness while savaging his ethics.
He knows exactly what to say and what not to say so that he avoids jail, but gets so close to it that it looks to everyone like he's breaking the law. Like, he won't go up to someone and say, I want you to kill someone. He'll send someone to tell someone to kill someone.
This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. Never heard of Anthony Pratt? That was the person that was being interviewed by 60 Minutes of Australia. I just played you the clip. He's the member of Mar-a-Lago, number 3 on the Australian richest persons list, and somebody who tried and successfully curried favor and insinuated himself within the orbit of Donald Trump in order to obtain tax breaks that total up to $2 billion of wealth increase because of his relationship with Donald Trump. And what matters also is it helps explain the motive that Donald Trump had to keep and share top secret and classified national security information with others, both as his to keep for his own ability to pay back in a vendetta style people that opposed him, like General Mark Milley, or in a transactional way to trade something for access or to show off, as John Bolton, our former national security advisor under Donald Trump, just said. I'd rather not know about Anthony Pratt, but now I know a lot about Anthony Pratt, both because of the 60 Minutes Australia reporting and the constant reporting coming out of the New York Times, specifically by Maggie Haberman and Ben Protess on another series of articles. You may have heard earlier in October that Donald Trump shared nuclear secrets with Anthony Pratt and probably wondered who the heck is Anthony Pratt, and now we just played that video for him. Let me give you the rundown. Anthony Pratt is in the multinational paper and packaging business. He is a multi-billionaire that dwarfs Donald Trump's net worth by about 50 times. He's worth about $25 billion. His wife, Claudine Revere, had been running the concession shop and restaurants within the Central Park ice skating rink that used to be called Trump Ice, now returned to its original name, Woolman Rink. She ran that. That is how the beginning of this worm getting inside of Donald Trump started, through the wife, Claudine Revere. The husband and the wife then donated $1 million to the inauguration back in 2016, and Pratt made it his business after the election to get as close to Donald Trump as possible and try to influence policy, particularly corporate tax and other business tax policies. And he was successful because the tax cuts that Donald Trump made for corporations benefited directly Anthony Pratt, an estimated $2 billion. It's no surprise that Donald Trump would try to curry favor with somebody he admired in Australia and share top secret information with him, compromising our national security. For instance, we know back in October the 5th, and now we have more detailed reporting that just came out this weekend, that the nuclear secrets that were shared were about American submarine capacity, response time, how long their missiles in flight would go undetected by the Russians, and how many nuclear warheads were on each missile. That sounds like stuff you shouldn't be sharing with a businessman who happens to be a member of your club at Mar-a-Lago and who clearly does not have top secret classified information. But Donald Trump is transactional in everything he does. In fact, we're going to hear another clip secretly recorded by Anthony Pratt. All these were secretly recorded, of course, where he shared his true feelings. He had a very transactional relationship with Donald Trump, one that he told his closest friends, and obviously he's telling somebody here on a recorded line. But to Donald Trump, he just tried to suck up to him in order to get as close to Donald Trump as possible. That included taking out effectively all of Mar-a-Lago and all of the rooms and spending $1 million on tickets for a New Year's party that Donald Trump never attended, where the actual face value of those tickets was about $50,000. That delta sounds a lot like a bribe that the president would have taken in order to change policy. That is a bad thing and a crime, and something we're sure Jack Smith is also investigating. The prosecutors for Jack Smith have interviewed Anthony Pratt and others around him at length about these issues, and he remains a person of interest, may not be indicted, but a person of interest who will be required to testify against Donald Trump. And now, I'm not sure that Jack Smith knew about these secret recordings that have just been obtained by 60 Minutes Australia, but they do now, and you've heard them. So we have Donald Trump compromising national security, endangering our security, bragging about confidential information, as you heard on the tape that we led into this hot take with, even bragging about a private diplomatic and military conversation he had with his counterpart in Iraq, in which he told Anthony Pratt that when the president of Iraq said, "You just bombed one of my cities," he said, "I told him, what are you going to do about it?" And 2 or 3 days later, there was another military operation that took out a major commander through a drone strike led by the military under Donald Trump. Probably you don't want to be telling some Australian businessman about your interactions with Iraq at the moment that your army or your Air Force is planning a military strike that's under wraps. That's probably a bad thing for a commander-in-chief to do. Could you imagine, because Donald Trump likes to compare himself to George Washington, could you imagine George Washington sort of sharing with people his battle plans and strategies for the American Revolution with people who had the ear of the king? Probably be a bad thing. Let's play another clip, and then I'll tell you how this all ties together with Mar-a-Lago and the effort to convict Donald Trump with a jury, with Pratt being one of 80 witnesses, at least at Mar-a-Lago, who will testify, and people are watching and listening, including, I hope, Judge Aileen Cannon in Florida. Let's play this next clip, which, let me just introduce it. This shows two things: that Anthony Pratt saw Rudy Giuliani, indicted lawyer for Donald Trump in Georgia, unindicted co-conspirator in the D.C. election case for Jack Smith, saw him as a conduit to get to Donald Trump, and saw him as somebody that he could pal around with from an Anthony Pratt standpoint to get the access he wanted and to be able to basically lobby to obtain the tax breaks that he was looking for, and then compared Trump and Giuliani to the mob, to the mafia. Let's play that clip.
Rudy Giuliani,
Wow!
who, as you'll see, is another controversial American Anthony Pratt has been trying to impress. You're laughing. Why the reaction?
Well, it's a reaction of dismay, really.
Make America great again.
During Donald Trump's tumultuous years as the commander-in-chief, one of his biggest supporters was Rudy Giuliani.
I don't know what you need to wake you up.
The larger-than-life former mayor of New York was Trump's personal lawyer.
Wow!
Not surprisingly, Australian billionaire Anthony Pratt cultivated a friendship with the Speaker-in-Chief. In early 2020, Giuliani was invited to be a special guest at Pratt's 60th birthday in Melbourne. And to ease the pain of a long trip, he was made an offer he couldn't refuse.
Cut a long story short, I paid him about $1 million to come out like as a celebrity guest, and didn't happen, so now he rings me once a week.
Secret tape recordings we've obtained reveal COVID spoiled Anthony Pratt's birthday wish. The normally serious former National Security Advisor, John Bolton, finds the whole story bemusing. Mr. Pratt has boasted about paying Rudy Giuliani near $1 million to appear at his birthday party. You're laughing. Why the reaction?
Well, it's a reaction of dismay, really. Not surprising, but it's just hard to describe. Number one, that anybody would offer something like that, and maybe two, not so surprising, Rudy would take it, but not appropriate for a friend of the president to be doing that, because that subjects the president to the accusation that his advisors, even though they're in the private sector, are being paid for access to him as president.
Thank you.
What makes these tape recordings all the more remarkable is they provide clues about the way Anthony Pratt wields influence.
Rudy is someone that I hope will be useful one day. Plus, I just think he's cool. It's not all just sort of like seat of the pants shit. I think that him and Rudy are like that, and they're plotting all this out.
But Pratt's not stupid. He knows he must be careful in his dealings with Trump and Giuliani.
All of these guys are like the mafia. Trump, Rupert, Rudy. You want to be a customer, not a competitor.
This comparison to the mafia, though, I mean, it's an extraordinary line. Is there a ring of truth to it?
Well, I think Trump often talks like a mafioso in the sense of, he doesn't commit extortion. He says, nice little business you got here. It'd be a shame if anything happened to it.
And here, John Bolton again laughing in the background. This guy was the national security advisor for Trump. He's not surprised by any of this. And the sheer naked transactional approach to Donald Trump and those around him to take advantage of Donald Trump. That's why there was a rumor for years that Donald Trump was a stooge and had been turned by the Russians, because all you got to do is flatter the guy and shower some gifts or money his way, and you see what happens. You get basically anything you want. He folds like a cheap card table. And so the takeaway that we've learned now over the weekend, combined with what we knew from the beginning of October, is that Donald Trump maintained and retained confidential and classified documents and information to use transactionally, both to obtain favors in return. Anthony Pratt, frequently on Fox News, frequently at rallies, supporting Donald Trump, writing op-ed pieces in favor of Donald Trump and his policies, calling him a genius. In return, Donald Trump would introduce Pratt at Mar-a-Lago events as the great Anthony Pratt, Tony Pratt, and would also benefit him in the corporate tax world. That's the transactional Donald Trump, which gives the jury the intent that they need in order to convict Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago and ultimately in the election interference case as well. And then there's the vendetta, retribution Donald Trump reason for maintaining the piles of classified national defense information documents. It's to be able to, if need be, and if there were secret tapes, for instance, against Anthony Pratt, recorded by someone, thank God, in which he shared his deepest, darkest thoughts and true opinions about Donald Trump, and they're not favorable, Donald Trump, he would then have the ability to use his stash of documents to go after Anthony Pratt. Because that's Donald Trump. And that's what we heard from somebody who, not knowing he was recorded, who got into the inner circle, who was proud of being in the inner circle and how it benefited him, told the person on the other end of the recording. This is, using bombshell information related to Donald Trump can be exhausting, but don't get fatigued. This is important information. This is stuff, most of which Jack Smith had, but not all of which Jack Smith had. You may be hearing it around the same time that Jack Smith is hearing about these secret recordings. Of course, Anthony Pratt's been interviewed and debriefed a number of times by Jack Smith's team, and Donald Trump knows it. Now that, the inevitable Donald Trump tweet storm, social media storm, and his proxies attacking Anthony Pratt. Anthony Pratt, who he loved, who is a fellow billionaire, who shared his values, whose wife helped run, had the lucrative concession and restaurant operation at his ice skating rink when he ran that. Now you'll see, after this reporting, and the 60 Minutes Australia went live this morning on our Saturday morning, then you're going to see Donald Trump say, I never knew Anthony Pratt. Didn't know him. Didn't know he paid $1 million for $50,000 worth of tickets. He's a creep. It's obvious he recorded. He's a bad person. Can't be trusted. I didn't know he was trying to lobby me for things, and the like. That's coming. And we'll cover that on the MeidasTouch network as well. But for right now, the headline in the New York Times and the 60 Minutes Australia and here on the MeidasTouch network is that the relationship between Donald Trump and Anthony Pratt goes far beyond just him revealing, hitting a couple of golf balls, some nuclear secrets. It's a deeper, darker, more incestuous, transactional relationship between the two, in which Anthony Pratt was benefited to the tune of $2 billion, and Donald Trump got to, talk to him, use him as a proxy to bolster his ego, to bolster his campaign, to bolster his policies, to go as a proxy on Fox News, to brag about Donald Trump as a job creator and the like. That's what Donald Trump got. That's the transaction, or the quid pro quo. We'll continue to follow events like this one and how they impact, how politics impacts justice, and how it impacts our court system. One place, Legal AF, only on the MeidasTouch network. on this YouTube channel you're already watching. Free subscribe. Help MeidasTouch get to 2 million in their grassroots efforts to become a leading media company. And then every Wednesday and Saturdays, we do a podcast at the intersection of law, politics, and justice. We call it Legal AF. It is what you think. I'm the co-founder and co-anchor on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Give me a thumbs up on this reporting, this analysis right here. It'll help with the algorithm and help keep the content coming to you. Until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.